The whole issue surrounding sexual assault and interpersonal violence is very personal to me. So, as a freshman, my first semester at Miami, I was sexually assaulted by someone that I knew. For me personally, I didn't really have a great support system when I came forward as a survivor. I would just sit out in the hallway um, at like 2 a.m., like researching, like, what is rape? What is sexual assault? And so I think without the idea of creating SAS, I probably wouldn't be at Miami or I wouldn't be alive. So I talked to my roommate and she suggested that I talk to our RA. I chose not to because, again, I really didn't know what had happened to me. I felt really guilty about it, and I almost felt like, what if it wasn't sexual assault? Like, what if I did not get raped?
We have cases all the time where folks say, I didn't know that that was sexual assault. I didn't know that this qualified as that, or that this met the criteria for sexual harassment. But really, the way we look at things is, do you feel like harm occurred for you? And how can we support you to be successful? So all situations of sexual misconduct that happen at Miami, whether it's at the university or it's off campus, comes through as a report to myself. So my goal is to make sure that in the response that I'm supporting a student to essentially be able to persist at the university. That's the number one goal for me, is to make sure that they have the information that they need to make the next step, the next best step for them. And that looks different for everybody. For some folks, it's an investigation. For some folks, it is, I just want to figure out, are we going to have similar classes in common? I think people choose not to report because the world has told them that your situations don't matter. There's fear. There's lots of fear involved when it comes to the word investigation.
I think it feels so much more serious and formal when the police are involved. A common reaction from some people might be, well, I don't want to press charges. Like, I don't want to go that far yet. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't start that process.
But I think it's also just a really antagonizingly long and demoralizing process. The policy says it takes up to 120 business days for the entire thing to be resolved. And that's business days. That's not even, actual days. That's, 4 months.
In the function of the job, we also then want to provide a lot of support to the student as well.
My sophomore year, I was drugged to the point that this boy supposedly carried me out of an uptown bar and raped me in my own dorm room. My roommate reported to my RA, who then forced me to talk to student counseling, so I wouldn't get written up for breaking the roommate contract of not having boys over after a certain time. She also forced me to report to the police because it was police policy of Miami. They did nothing. My RA did nothing. Student counseling did nothing.
I'm familiar with the account, and I thought it was incredibly brave of folks to be able to use that as an outlet. That's what social media is for. It should be an outlet to engage, to connect with other people, to share their stories, to kind of live life out loud.
So I am familiar with it. I have seen it briefly. I can't say that I've spent a lot of time going through it, but I am familiar with it.
And I don't think anyone should have to feel unsafe or unheard or, be paranoid about walking home at night. Or, having a gun pulled on them at a bar. I think that it's just insane that stuff like this could happen and we're still, not being taken seriously about it. I think a big thing that we need to change is how we respond to survivors. The Director of Advocacy and Education, she's wanting to push for trauma-informed training for MUPD and OPD.
I have been in the process of doing training through FETI, which is Forensic Experiential Trauma Interviews. So FETI training is something, it is not department-wide. It is a very specific training course that involves several hours, but that one specifically, I'm the only one right now that's doing that.
A big thing is, our attitudes towards it and the narrative that we have in Miami. It's very much so victim blaming, and I think a lot of things reinforce, rape culture.
I think we really try our best to educate and help with prevention, but even prevention is complicated in that some of the feedback we get sometimes is we don't want to victim blame in our prevention efforts. If we're saying, well, you could be safe by walking in pairs or not staying out after dark, and these are good safety tips, but then does that have another side of it where if you have something bad happen to you, whatever it is, then you say, oh, I didn't do those things, like, is it my fault that then this happened to me? Which of course it's not. Someone did something to you they shouldn't have done.
So there's several things that we do as an department to try and prevent or raise awareness about sexual assault. We will do talks to groups upon request, but then also just letting people know that they need to be aware of their surroundings, and that goes in all places, whether you're outside or inside. Being aware of who's around you, who you're with, making sure that you're not on your phone all the time.
I got roofied last year at a frat party, and I woke up at 8 a.m. at McCullough Hyde Hospital with my shirt half off, my glasses bent, phone dead, mascara dry under my eyes, and all of my IDs gone. All I remember was being at a frat party and waking up in the ER. The Office of Community Standards sent me to an alcohol assessment and workshop, a total of $2,500, including hospital bills and ambulance costs, and didn't blink twice or ask any more questions when I said I was roofied. My own parents didn't believe me since Miami didn't acknowledge it in my violation until I sobbed and broke down and begged them to believe me. I'm not sure all that happened to me that night, and I will never know for sure, and that haunts me to this day.
Yeah. So yes, I was familiar with the day. I will call it April 24th. But what was interesting about that situation is there's lots of conversations when things like this arise at the university. It's, do we acknowledge it and give power to it and give energy to it? Or do we provide information and provide resources so that folks know if anything does happen, here is how we can move forward? We understand the power of the grapevine with students. MUPD also took some preventative measures, but you'll have to check in with them about that.
There was nothing official that I saw came through in regards to that. The regular patrol operations would have been going on that day, and regular activities.
My freshman year, I had been talking to a guy, and when we hung out for the first time, I was coerced and sexually assaulted. He was 2 years older than me and well known on campus. I never reported it because I was scared no one would believe my side or do anything about it. Since then, he has found my number, texted me from multiple numbers, approached me when seeing me, and claims it was consensual, even when I repeatedly told him no and had to physically get him off me. After reading all these posts, I'm glad I never reported it, as nothing would have come of it. Sexual and interpersonal violence is a serious problem in Miami. It's sad that girls have to be happy they didn't report their sexual assault.